Welcome back to the Mid-Year YouTube channel. In today's episode, we're working on a familiar face, Overkill, the 67 Corvette Resto Mod project that I built a couple of years ago. In this episode, we're working on the transmission tunnel. We need to cut a big hole and squeeze in a 6-speed transmission and install a brand new dynamic Corvette transmission tunnel, and we're going to try out some more of their glue, so be sure to stick around. Under the hood is the biggest change. We have a LT4 supercharged engine, which this one has been worked over a little bit with some different pulleys. I think they did some work in the blower. It's got a different cam. It's been tuned up a little bit, so this thing will make plenty of power. And the reason it's here is because there's no transmission behind it. This has a 6-speed transmission. This whole setup came out of a late model Camaro. But this little itty bitty tunnel in here is not gonna have, well, it's not gonna give you clearance for that transmission. So we have a big old honking transmission tunnel from Dynamic Corvettes. So we need to get this into there. So to do that, we got to yank out our seats. We've got to pull out the column, the cluster, all the wiring, the glove box that's zip tied shut, and our dash panel. We've got to break the seam at the bottom, drill out all our rivets, take our bolts out. Once we get that out, we can pull out all of our insulation that we put on the tunnel, and we're just going to end up cutting the tunnel, I think right at the radius here. We're just going to cut this whole tunnel out, and then we'll see how we can start finagling this one in. We're obviously going to have to cut more of the floor away. This tunnel comes out a lot wider, but we'll give it our best shot. Also, this car is here, which we are expecting a delivery any minute now. We need to redo the front end on Overkill. I'll get into this more in the next video. These one-piece front ends are a little tricky to put on. I thought I had it looking good, but it moved as it cured, and it just wasn't in the right spot. I was also rushing this. I think I glued this front end on like a week before Carlisle. So we were pushing it. I really don't like the way it fits, and I really don't like putting one-piece front ends on, so Vetmasters has a shipment coming. So we got the dash out, the wiring, and any other little hardware that's in our way. And the tunnel is loosely sitting in here. You can see we've got a good bit of room before it touches the floor. This part should be forward more. You can see on the toe boards. We're not fitting, but I didn't expect it to fit the first shot. And it looks like our biggest interference is up here at the bottom of the wiper motor recess here. So I think we need to scallop out this a little bit, this tunnel. So I think what we'll do is we'll just trace a mark somewhere like that. I'll take off this butyl rubber tape on here as well, because we're gonna have to start removing insulation and stuff. But if I cut that, that should hopefully let this come forward. And then I made this floor set up myself. I mean, I used an original reproduction kit for the tank cover, but I made this fit this car. So this flange may not work. We may end up having to shorten this or change the angle a little bit, and we can just hand lay fiberglass. That's what I did under here anyways. So let's give that a shot and see if we can get this any closer before we cut out the original tunnel. So I have the tunnel fitting actually pretty good. I spent some time whittling the front away. You can see how tight, rotate this. You can see how tight it fits under here. I think we could be hitting that little bump possibly for the, we could be hitting that little bump that holds the dash frame. I'm not really sure. This is a big old honking tunnel, so I'm not sure what we're clearing and what we're not, and there's no hole, so I can't tell. So I think that's close enough for now. I think we're gonna pull this out and just cut the old tunnel is kind of along this line, and then we'll lay this in here. Whenever we get this to actually lay down flat without any interferences, then we can really start to whittle the floor away, make any trims on this that we need to, and prep this thing to glue. But we also need to check a bell housing, probably not the transmission. Maybe we'll just take some measurements. But we need to check the bell housing to make sure that all this clears before we glue this in place. So I wrestled the old tunnel out and I laid it next to Dynamics tunnel, and this tunnel by itself looks huge, but when you put the original one next to it, it's actually not that big of a difference. I think the biggest differences would be in this area. They raised it up, and then around the bell housing. So it's a good bit bigger, but I also modified Overkill's tunnel. I don't know if you were really able to tell. I slid it through here and made it taller for the Roadster Shop chassis, and I believe that's already done here. So let's set this in the car and see how it looks now. So I have a tunnel roughly cut out, and I put some wood under here so we can actually climb in the car without cracking anything in the floor since the tunnel's out. So if you look at the back of the engine, you can see our hole is biased more towards the passenger side than the driver. And that's because originally the Corvette engines were shifted to the passenger side a little bit. The Roadster Shop centered it. I think they did that to give you more room on each side as well as under the hood for accessories. The problem is that I have this tunnel sitting in here, and I think it's also being biased to the passenger side because that's the way it was originally. But you can see, if I look back here, you can't see that bell housing bolt. So you can see this one on this side. I think I need to trim just a little bit more on the driver's side. And we have our transmission sitting here. So I think once I trim a little bit more, we'll put this big 6-speed on this jack. We got to pick the car up higher, and we'll scoot it underneath, and we'll lift it up into place, make sure that it clears, and make sure our tunnel fits. We were able to wrestle in the transmission. It's all bolted up to the engine. It's sitting on the cross member on the chassis, and it looks like it fits pretty nice. There's a little bit of almost interference on the driver's side I need to cut out, but other than that, our opening looks big enough that we have plenty of room. He'll have to figure out his shifter, because I believe this was for the shifter setup here, so I'm not exactly sure how those work. This is a Camaro transmission, but let's get the tunnel in and see how that works. All right, so if we climb under here, you can see we've got a whole pile of room. I could probably put this light down. I can get my fist in here. So that's plenty of room on the passenger side. Up here, I can reach the whole way around. Nothing is touching. Nothing's touching down there. That's awesome. About the driver's side. All right, so this is the closest point right here, but I can get my fingers in here. That's plenty of clearance, honestly. And then, yeah, I think I can reach the whole way around. Oops. I can reach the whole way around the transmission, and nothing is hitting anywhere. So that fits pretty nice. You can see there's I think that sound you heard with me moving the tunnel, because this gap just opened up right here. And you can see the biggest interference we have is actually the factory floor right here, where this runs a little short. So I think I'm going to end up trimming this back. We'll have to figure out how to deal with that. I could at least radius this or make more room, but this has to get filled in. You can see our drive shaft will be centered in the tunnel, and this part of the output of the transmission is centered in the tunnel. So I believe we are good to go. And you can see there's a lot of meat on the driver's side we could cut off. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I've got some trimming to do still for floor because we don't need all of this here. Yeah, okay. Well, that gives me the information that I need. We're pretty close to gluing this thing in. It fits. So in real time, it's been about a month since we've worked on Overkill. A lot's changed in my life, but now it's time to get back in the garage and remember where we left off. So we have a transmission sitting in here with the transmission cross member. The tunnel roughly fits. We need to cut a hole in the tunnel for at least the shift rod. I don't know what kind of shifter he's going to have in this, but we at least need to give him access to that. And we can't glue our tunnel in until we have a modified glue gun. I've been using 3M 08115 for years. It's a great glue. Part of the problem is it's expensive, and these tubes are really small, and I use a lot of these. So Dynamic Corvette talked to me. They sent me some of their glue in a can. Well, they said we also have glue in a tube, but you can see this glue is significantly larger than the tube I was using, which is great for volume. You won't use as many tubes in one job. But the gun that I've been using is a battery powered one that I modified to fit this tube, but now we need to make another chamber to fit this tube. So I have some parts. I have a backing plate. I have this cage that we need to extend a little bit, and I have some extra of these little plungers. So we need to make sure that we have the right plungers that fit in these and put the right pressure. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of changing, and I think we can cobble one together so that way we can use the adhesive from Dynamic Corvettes. I know their Pro Set works really well whenever you mix it up by hand, but sometimes I like having it in the glue gun as well. So we're gonna give that a try. I decided to change my glue gun. Again, I wasn't quite getting the space in here that I needed to fit this cartridge. What I ended up doing with this first cartridge was cutting the tube off so it was flush. You can see that in these tubes, the pistons are set a good bit in. I was trying to compensate for the fact that we don't have enough throw on our mechanism to push the pistons all the way up to use all of the glue that's in these. So I thought about it for a while. I tried to get by with this, but it was still too short. So I cut it and added another 1.5 inches in here. And what I did is I went home and I 3D printed a bunch of cylinders that are 1 inch or 1.5 inches long and 2 different diameters to fit in here. So that way, if I put both of these setups in here, which I don't think these are the matching pair. So if I put the matching pair in, now we're flush with the end of the canister. Now if we put our tube in here with our little cylinder spacers, this can sit in here like this. We can start hitting the button. This will push up in here, and then as we go, we'll just have to add a couple more spacers to this. So it'll be a little finicky. I'll see if I can get another one that has a longer throw, but for right now, we're just going to keep adding these things in here as we push up here. We'll have a good bit in here and we'll have plenty of throw. This will make sure we use all the glue in here, and I have my 3D printer at home, so this basically costs nothing to do. So now it's time to go inside the car. We have a little more trimming to do. I'm pretty happy with the way this tunnel fits. I do believe Dynamic made this for a 63 Corvette, and I have a different rear floor than what they designed this for. So what we're gonna have to do over here, you can see there's a gap at the bottom. I'm just gonna come in here and slice this off to about here. We'll hand lay that in. I was able to push my floor that I built, I don't know if you can see, off the chassis. We're pushing off the chassis and pushing that floor forward. That way it fits. And on this side, this is why I think they used a 63 to build this. You can see I can get my hand in here. The 63 has a different shape than what this car does on the firewall. So what we're gonna do is cut this piece out, and we'll just have to tape this on the backside and hand lay this area, which is the same as over here. So that's not really a big deal. I traced out about where I want this floor to sit. So that way we know when we come in here to glue the tunnel, we can put our glue down. We know exactly where our glue print will be. It'll ooze out and it'll fit perfect. So we need to make a couple little trims. I did cut a hole in here for the shifter just to give him an idea of where he needs to hook up to. They still may end up having to trim this hole and make it bigger, but at least they have a window that they can start working with. So I have the tunnel in and everything fit up nice. We had plenty of glue in one tube to go the whole way around. I did have to put my 1-inch slugs in there just to get us enough travel, but there's still a little left. I just came through with a putty knife and cleaned all the edges up, smushed some in so that way we know we have glue from the edge all the way in. This is going to be what helps seal your floor up, not only for strength, but to keep stuff from coming in, whether it's road noise, dirt, or fumes. You know, you want that to be sealed up. So all that looks good. That I kind of touched it up with my glove and everything. You can see I have a variety of clamps and different things holding this in. You want to make sure that you're pushing diagonally to make sure that it's centered in the tunnel, that it's contacting the floor. If you have a gap down here, you can always push up off your chassis or with a floor jack to close this. I have some weight on it to keep it down. We have some wood blocks here because I kept wanting to kick this way with the way I have my clamps. We have it clamped through the heater hole there, and I have a couple clamps off the chassis to this back wall to push this out. So all of that keeps this really nice and tight. You don't need to go crazy with your clamping fixture. Just be creative, and before you glue, make sure you test all your apparatus to make sure that you're getting good contact and nothing's going to move around on you. In the next video, when we work on the tunnel, we're going to be fiberglassing these edges on both sides as well as on the driver's side, and we need to modify the dash. The dash is going to be too long. I have this little shorty one that's broken off that I'm going to use at least as a template. I don't know if I'm going to use this dash in his car or not, but we're at least going to use this to measure because the tunnel is about here. So we know if we can take some measurements from some holes or whatever, we can get a good template of how we need to cut our dash or this one to fit. We may make a little bracket to hold it to the tunnel. We're not going to glue it in because he's going to probably upholster this and then put it in the car. I think that'd be probably the easiest way for the upholstery guy to do it. So I have to figure that part out, but all this looks good. I'm really happy with this glue. So here's our Pro Set glue here that we used. I've used this, the Part A and Part B in the can version, and I like that stuff, but personally I like the stuff in the tube. It's on demand. I have about 4 or 6 of these tubes lined up. So as soon as I run out, I can chuck this one, throw a new one in and keep going. That's easier for me. Plus on here, it tells us our properties. So we have a working time of about 64 to 80 minutes. Very specific. I don't know why it's not 60, but okay. Clamp time, 8 hours, and the minimum working time is 60 degrees. So we have all those conditions. We'll let this wait, let it cure up. And if you want some of this, head over to Dynamic Corvette's website. They sell it in both the can, I believe in 2 different sizes, and this tube. Now this tube is a lot bigger than the stuff you get with 3M. 3M, I know you can use this on different metals. You can bond to steel, aluminum, or fiberglass. which is really nice for bonding strips and a sealant. You just know everything's going to stick. I have to do more research to see what all you can stick together. With this stuff, I know at least fiberglass, but I don't know about steel. So the 3M stuff may have its place in the shop, but these are really expensive. They're like $50, $60 a tube. And I think this might just be a couple dollars more. It's a lot more glue. It's a thicker consistency. This stuff likes to run. I put this stuff down and it kind of stuck where I wanted it to. It comes out in a thicker bead. The nozzle's bigger. I think this is just a better product. So I will continue to keep a couple of these 3Ms in stock until I figure out what all I can glue together. But if this stuff bonds with steel, and if you guys know, let me know. I really didn't read much on it or read the data sheets, but if this stuff works with steel, I'm definitely going to only use this, but I'm going to keep stocking this in the shop. If you want any of it, head over to Dynamic Corvette's website. In the next video on this car, we're going to be working on the front end. You can see I already started cutting the front end apart. It didn't really fit right from the get-go, and we're going to put some press molded fenders on it with some bonding strips. So now I need to do some more trimming and get some bonding strips ready to go into this front end. We're going to redo the inner fenders, get everything to fit the way that it was supposed to from the very get-go. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Also leave a comment down below and tell me what you think about Overkill and what you think Overkill should look like whenever it's done. In the next video, we're going to be jumping back on the front end. I have some work to do. You can see there's a little bit of the front end missing. We have some parts from Vet Masters to help us out to rebuild the front end and get it fitting the way that it should have been from the beginning. So I got a lot of work to do, and I'll catch you guys later.